Hey everybody, this is Dave coming to you from the Gaming Cave, and today we're going to start our playthrough of Centrifugal Offensive. It's the Japanese offensive campaign in the Pacific, 1941 and 42. Okay, so really, it's set to run from December of 41 with Pearl Harbor through April of 42, but certain conditions can make the game extend 2 more turns into June of 42. And so as the Japanese player, we don't want that to happen. We want to be, of course, at the end early if we can, if we can get our victory points. I'm going to use this camera because I can zoom with this one. A couple things I want to be able to do and zoom in. I've already set the board up. So for the Allies, they actually have specific locations. The only random thing was Pearl Harbor, and you put in a couple carrier fleets and your 3 battleship fleets, and then you draw 2 of them out, and that's what's going to be at Pearl Harbor. So it can vary from game to game depending on what you have there. And then one of the things, I'm not sure how well it really is going to work, but they call it the fog of war, but I'm not supposed to know what's in all these. So I actually set this up a couple days ago when I was kind of going through, and so I can't remember what everything is in all the locations. I know a couple of them because I just remember them, but there's some I don't remember exactly what's in there. And so that creates the fog of war, and then what you do is you put the base on top of it so that you can't see what's in there, because on the back side of the counter it actually tells you what's there. So as you can see down here, the brown and the dark brown, the light brown are the Japanese, and then the bluish gray are the Allies. So you can see, you know, where I put, there's a stack here in Manila, but I can't remember everything that's there, and so we have all that covered up. Now, there may be a point in the game where I have to go through and pick things out, and that's okay. That's just the way it goes. And then we have some boxes, the red boxes up here. These are the top one is the victory point track. And if I ever get into a negative number, then I automatically lose the game. Below that is the action points, and we'll go through that. And then we have our turn counter, and on that, see if I can zoom in some, you can see the numbers there where it says Japanese basic actions 4 on the first turn, so I get 4. The Allies reinforcement die roll is a 1, the Allied events is a 1. So these are things that we'll be going through. Then below that is the Japanese reinforcements. And so on the back side of the counters, let's see if I got one. They show, see if I can grab one of these. The back side of the counters have the kind of blurry, but it has the year on it. See if I can get that to focus up. There we go. Has the year on it and a B. So there's certain conditions if we go into the Japanese spirit thing where we start to victory spirit, then these other reinforcements start happening. So there's 1941, there's 42A, 42B, the same thing with the US. So that's what all these different stacks are. And then we're going to have some chits that we draw and play, and they're going to create some of the actions or some of the events that I'm going to have in place. One of them that's going to happen on turn 1 is the Operation AI, and so I get to use that one. That's for the Pearl Harbor attack. Over here is the US table. It's exact as the same thing as the German, but you have units for refit, permanently destroyed, and then your markers that get used. And then of course on the map we have all the different locations, the Aleutians, the Hawaiian Islands, all those things. We also have my dice tower, and then the Allied Fleet Reserve, and we'll be going through some of that also. So we have quite a bit on the board. It took me a little while to get it all set up, but I got that taken care of. So I think we're just gonna, I haven't played the game through, so it's gonna be a new adventure for me. So I think what we're gonna do is, I've read the rules, and we're gonna try to work our way through this. And I did print out a play aid that I got off of Board Game Geek. Somebody was kind enough to kind of put all the major steps in. We may have to go refer to some tables, and that's okay. And then they also put one of the tables in here, and we're gonna play it. You know, and it's because this was a magazine game, you know, you don't get all the nice handouts and stuff. But the nice thing that I do like about the magazine game is all the tables are on the map. So you don't have to refer to a bunch of combat tables or a bunch of other ones. Almost everything is on the map. So that does make it handy. So this first turn is the shock turn. So what that means is that the allies don't get to react to us when we do this shock effect on game turn 1. The Japanese naval units can move through spaces containing allied units without stopping, and they ignore all allied reaction checks, and they automatically have the tactical edge. Okay, so there's some benefits there. I am going to use some of the optional rules here on the back. I think the mopping up I may use there at the end, that's fine. The capturing bases, I don't think I'm going to use that, because it says this rule gives a major advantage to the Japanese, and I don't want to do that right out of the gate. Maybe if I get my butt handed to me, I may have to do that, but I think right now we'll skip that. The ground unit retreats, we'll refer to that if we need it. The Allied reinforcements marching in, depending on how they need to come. But the one I really like is the elite units. Now, an elite unit, get one of my units here. We'll take this battleship. He's not an elite, but I can describe it. Okay, so the game's settled down here. Okay, so we have some numbers here. Let's see if I can get that thing to be a little better. Okay, we have some numbers here. It gives you a description, the group. The first number is the ground attack number. The second number up here on the top right is your air attack number. The bottom left is your submarine, and the bottom right is your surface fleets. This middle number in the parentheses is your move factor, so that when they move, they can move 2 of the spaces on the board. If that's in red, then they're an elite unit. What that means is when we do our tactical rolls, that they get to add 1 to their die roll, so they have a better chance of getting the tactical edge. That'll come into effect starting in turn 2. Okay, so what we're going to do is, I'm going to drop my first thing we do for turn 1. I know that I have my AI up here, but I have to pull the Japanese event. And there's 2 events that are not in there. The Operation Moresby and Operation Midway. And those 2 are not in there yet. There's a certain time when they can be kicked in, or a certain event kicks them in. Okay, so we're going to start. And the second event that we're going to add is Operation J. Okay. And of course, I'm not familiar with all the different operations, so we'll look this up and see what Operation J means. Operation J, I can keep this operation counter and use it when I want to use it. When played, I can make 1 additional G3 ground or air operation, and then once I do, I discard it. So it doesn't go back into the pot. That's it for it. So I have an operation that I can decide when I want to use it. I don't have to use it this turn, but I got to decide. Okay, before we make any moves, we have to do a couple things up here. Now, one of the things that I was showing you up here on the board. Can't probably, let's see if I can get zoomed in enough. So the Japanese on turn 1 get 4 basic actions. So my action marker, see if I can get you over there. Back that out a little bit. Okay, they get 4 there. Because I'm going to play this AI, then they get 2 more actions. That puts me up to 6. And any fortresses that you have, you get an extra action. Well, I have a fortress, and it is down here, Truck. Truck is actually a Japanese fortress. So I get 1 extra action available to me for that one also. So I now have 7 action points available to spend. All right, well, the first thing we're going to do is we got to go do Pearl Harbor. Okay, so we're going to move into Pearl Harbor. Now, I did a task force marker, task force A. Come on, there we go, task force A. And I have over here on the board, I have task force A right here. Okay, there's also a battle display here which we can use. And in fact, I'm going to use that. But first, make you guys dizzy going back and forth. We're going to move task force A up here to Pearl Harbor, and they're going to do an attack. So we're going to put a battle marker because I'm initiating the battle. It'll be on the Japanese side. So we're going to put the battle marker there. Okay. Now, this is a carrier attack that I'm doing. So here on the battle board, we're going to lay out our ships for the task force. And we have a cruiser group, a destroyer group, and I have 3 carriers here. The Kaga, Ryujo, and Shokaku. And in the rules, these actually represent more than just 3 carriers. I'll show you real quick. Let me find it here on my little notation. So it tells me, and the same thing happens with the US. So I actually have right here in the Japanese, the Akagi and the Kaga are there together. So the Shokaku, the Zuikaku. And then the Ryujo is actually by herself, single. Okay, so those are the carriers that I brought in to hit Pearl Harbor. Okay, so when we strike with the carriers, we don't do any, we are going to bring in out of Pearl, we're going to see, this is where I kind of get to reveal because I can see everything that's there now because I'm in the same space as they are. So we're just going to grab this whole stack, and there's a carrier group, so that I found carriers in Pearl Harbor. Trying to get, there we go. That PH or FR, the FR means Fleet Reserve. So CV2 group, which is the Enterprise, and I'll have to look up which other carriers there, but they are in Pearl Harbor. Okay, there's a battleship group number 1, which has the Arizona, and there's a couple of other battleships that go with it. They also have some airplane groups that are going to come up to meet the attack. So they have this 14P, which is looks like a fighter. They have a B-18 group and an SF, which is a seaplane tender looking thing. And then these ground troops stay down here. And they also have, let's see what other ships are here. There's a cruiser, an AV, a light cruiser, destroyers, and a submarines. So I can decide if I want to go after them. But I'm probably going to settle on the carrier and the battleship and then make my run away. Because that's what I'm after here, to see if I can knock these guys out right here at Pearl Harbor. Okay. All right. Now that cost me, that move into there cost me an action point. And I have to spend an action now for my combat. So it's actually going to drive me down to 5 action points left. And we're going to do our combat. And this is a carrier strike. And it's part of my G3 operations. I'm going to get over here to it. We only use the carrier class units in the space to attack the enemy force in the same space. The only enemy units which can fire back are enemy air and carrier units. Attacking units must be in the same space as defending units. Okay, so only the carriers and the enemy air can fire back. But I have the advantage, so I'm going to get a chance to sink his carriers first. All right. First thing we're going to do, though, is go after the aircraft. So, as you can see, let's see if I can show you one of these. Here's the Kaga and the Akagi. Now, like I was saying before, this one has the red 3. I can't get this thing lined up the way I want it. Has the red 3 on it. It also has a 2 for ground combat, a 5 for air to air. So that means I got to roll a 1 to 5 to score a kill, a 1 for submarines, and a 4 for naval combat. So if I go after the surface ships, I got to roll a 1 to 4. They're the best group. The Ryujo has a 2 on their air attack and a 2 on their surface. And the Shokaku has a 4 and a 4. So that's what we're going to try to roll here. Okay, so my Japanese are attacking the aircraft first. I have a 5, a 2, and a 4. So I'm going to roll 3 times and see what I can damage here. So the first one, I need a 1 to 5 to hit. Hey, I got a 5. Thank goodness. Okay. So that will eliminate this first group. And this is not simultaneous combat. So these units, when they get eliminated, they go into the allied units for refit, because there will be a step there that we check. Okay, the next group is the Ryujo, and their air combat is a 2. So I need a 1 to 2 to hit. 1. We're on fire today. Okay, so we're going to knock down this next group. And just so you know, there is not a, on this side of it, you can see, and then when we flip it over, there's not a reduced side. So they're a 1-step unit, basically, these fighters are right here. Okay, that's 2 down. We got 1 more roll to do. This is with the Shokaku, and he's a 1 to 4 to hit. And, 5. They did not get them. Okay. So that means that air unit's going to get to fire back at us, at our ships. Okay. So we did not eliminate them. That's bad. I was hoping to get rid of those guys. Okay. So that is in our combat. That is the anti-air step. There's an anti-surface naval next. Okay. So the carriers in this game, they don't, in Midway, you know, you had your own separate planes. In Midway, they're represented by these numbers. So when he attacks, he's going to actually attack my carrier force, which would represent the aircraft. Okay. I'm attacking now with my surface fleet, or the surface attack. Now these are the guys that are going to try to sink the carriers and the battleships. And there is not a reduced side on either one of these. So if I get a hit, they're gone. Okay, so the Kaga, he has a 4, and the Shukaku, he has a 4. So I'm going to roll 2 dice, save me a roll. 1 each is going after the battleship and the carriers. Okay, so I'm looking for 1 to 4s. Whew. 1 and a 3. They hit them both. So I nailed both of those. Now, when those get hit, I get victory points for those ships. So we're supposed to keep track of our victory points as soon as we make a hit. Okay, so victory points, I get 3 victory points for each carrier and battleship. All right, so here I have a carrier and a battleship, so I get 3 victory points, which gives me 6 victory points. So up here on the victory point track, we go to 6. So I get 6 victory points right off the bat. Now they can get reduced if they get repaired. Okay. All right, I still had 1 left. There's a cruiser group. We can go after it. That's with my Ryujo. He needs a 2 to hit on the cruiser. Okay. We get a 6, so no hit. So no damage there. Okay. And on the shock attack, Japanese, ignore all allied, Japanese have the tactical edge. Oh, on carrier strikes, I want to see what, I have to read that real quick. Make sure I do this right. Okay, the only enemy units which can fire back are enemy air and carrier units. Okay, so this enemy air unit can fire back at my carriers now. So this was bad. This was not a good deal. But he is a 1, so he has to have a 1 to hit. 6, no hit. Okay. Okay, everybody goes back to their base. When he goes back, the air unit goes back. I wish I would have got rid of him, but I didn't. My task force all goes back into its task force over here. So we'll move our task force back up. They're back here. Okay, and now I'm going to do a move with this group. It costs me another action point. Leaves me with 4. And he can move 3 because the Kaga and the Kagi and the Ryujo only have move factors of 3, even though my other surface ships have a move factor of 4. They can only go as fast as the slowest ships, of course. So they're going to move 3, so they're getting out of there now. 1, 2, 3, and it puts them over here with the submarine force fleet right there. Okay, and that battle is complete. All right. So I still have 4 action points, and I have an event if I want to use one. So now what do we do next? So one of the things I wanted to mention was, I think I touched on it just briefly. All the Allied forces, they have locations that they start in. So they're always going to start, like I said, the only variable was at Pearl, what was going to be at Pearl Harbor, what we could destroy or not destroy. Everything else is kind of set, and then they're in this Allied Fleet Reserve. Now everything else, the Japanese, I had, other than the reinforcement troops, I could put them where I wanted to on the board as long as they were, you know, inside of my defensive realm. And the bases, you know, they told me what base I had to go, but I could put aircrafts ground troops, ships, whatever I wanted, you know, wherever I wanted to have them be at. So we'll see how this works out. I may not have positioned everything exactly right, but we're going to try it. But we're going to see what happens. So I decided here while I was looking at this that my next action point, I want to do my attack into China over here. And so to do that, I can move ground forces, and I'm going to go all the way into Rangoon. So I have this stack right here. And the top three have movement factors of 2. And these guys are I have 2 armor units, that's these, and an infantry unit. And that's what I'm sending in to Rangoon. Okay. So they're going to move there. These other units have a movement factor of 1. And they're going to move to Siam. And what happens when you move into Siam, you automatically get the Siamese infantry unit. Now it has a movement factor of 0, so it does not move. So it's activated, and it's here in Siam, but it cannot move. So it's only there for defensive purposes. So these guys moved there. I have an engineer unit and an airborne infantry and another infantry. That's where they're going to sit. So now I moved these guys here, which means I can reveal what's in here. So they have this unit base, which has a strength of 2. But his ground attack's only a 1. His air attack's a 2. And his no submarine, and he can fire against naval. So he's a strength of 2, but we reveal this is the AVG, which is your Flying Tigers over there in China. Now, normally, see, they would be an elite unit, but I'm catching them by surprise. So I'm going to try to eliminate this unit. And I do believe if I eliminate this unit, it's gone forever. They don't get to bring it back. Okay, so that cost me a point to move. And now I'm going to do a combined arms attack. So I'm down to 2 actions left right now. In the combined arms, I'm bringing in my airplane units also to hit Rangoon. My fighter has a range of 2, and the 2 bomber units have a range of 3. So what we're going to do is put these guys, here's the battle. So we're going to put these guys on the battle board over here. And there's the Tigers, and there's the base, and there's my land units, a couple armor, and an infantry unit. So what we're trying to do is capture this, and if you see this, notice this red star, that means I get a victory point if I capture that, when I capture this. Okay. All right, first thing we do, I have the initiative again, so it's, again, I get the first shot. So I'm going air to air, which is top right. So my fighter aircraft, as you can see, has a 5 on the top right. So I need a 1 to 5 to hit the AVG. All right, so I need a 1 to 5. And I got a 1. All right. So I eliminated those guys. So that's what I wanted. I wanted to get them knocked down because I do not want them. They're tough. And I wanted to get them quick. Now that leaves me with the ground units. So I'm attacking there. I have a 5, a 3, and a 3. So I'm going to roll the 1 to 5 first. This is my infantry unit, and see if he does damage. And he did. He got a 1. So that reduces Back and forth, back and forth. That reduces this. We flip it over. Now it's a 1. And now I got 2 armor units, and they are 3s. So I'm going to roll 2 dice, and a 1 to 3 will knock it out. Hey, look at that. I am on a roll today. I better play this whole game. I got a 2 and a 2. Okay, so over here, we eliminated that base. So we'll put it in the available bases because it's gone. And I get a victory point up here because I just captured Rangoon. My infantry is in there. My aircraft go home. I didn't even have to bomb them because I used my yeah, I didn't even have to bomb them. These guys go back to Indochina. That's where they were based. I could have left them. I could have let them land at Siam. Maybe I should have, but for right now, I've got this group right here, here at Rangoon. Okay, so that leaves me with 2 actions left. And so, you know, the choice is, in fact, yeah, they return back to their base. If I want to move them there, that would take me to there. Then they would be where they could help with the Burma Road. Or I can do something different. I could do a fleet attack here at Luzon, try to take it. It's not the victory point that I want. Or I can try to do something else. So this is the question, right? Is what do we do next? So I could come down here and hit Malaya. I don't know what's there. You know, and try to go ahead and knock this off. I could come across here to Borneo and see if I could take it. I do have a fleet that I could move over here to Borneo, and I have troops that I could land on Borneo and see if I could take Borneo, and that's a victory point there. So let's see, I have 2 points left. 1 point I can make the move, and then the second point I can make my attack. So I think Borneo is where I'm going. I'm going to send this surface fleet. Oops. So it's moving to Borneo. And my transport, and he can bring 3 ground troops with him. So I have Marines, Engineers, Marines. I think I'll bring that infantry unit and these engineers, and I think I'm going to leave my Marines back here for now because I don't think I'm going to need everybody up there just yet. So they're coming with the transports into Borneo. All right, that leaves me 1 action point, which is the battle, and the one I'm going to use for this one. So you noticed I didn't do, because I moved right into the square with them, it reveals them. I don't need to do a bunch of searching and revealing. It's just I have to fight whatever's there. The only thing there is the base. So I have my transport, brought in this engineer group. Now why did I take the engineers? Because I want to build me a base there, I think, to kind of hold that. So on this one, they are going to be, this will be a combined amphibious, I believe. That's what I'm looking for. I want a combined air ground attack, no, combined naval ground amphibious invasion. This is the same as one of the other G3 operations, plus disembark 1 ground force transported by amphibs onto the same land space. in that space. It may also include friendly land. Okay, so I can land this infantry unit there, and I can also do naval bombardment. So my naval bombardment, the destroyer doesn't get me anything. I have the battleship who gets me a 2, because that's his ground attack number. So they're not real good at naval bombardment, obviously. But we can do that, that's all part of it. So I have 2 1s and a 2 for naval bombardment. Okay, so let's roll the 2 1s and see if either one of those comes up. 4 and a 5, nope. The battleship is a 1 to 2. Oops. A 1 to 2. Hey, 2. The battleship hit the post, and it is, once it was a one side, it was on the side 1 already. So I eliminate that, and because Borneo is an objective, I get another victory point. So, and I landed my infantry unit there. So he's there. Oops, that's not the infantry unit. This is the infantry unit. He's there on Borneo, and I don't have any action points left to move my fleet away, so they're going to stay there. So the fleet with the transport is still be sitting here at Borneo. 2, 3, 4. Okay, so they're parked here at Borneo where they came in and did their assault. All right. I have to do a victory fever check. I roll 3 d6s. If it's greater than my victory points, then no. Okay, so I have 1, 2, let me get one more. My red d6s out for the Japanese. And we have 3 of them, and we add them up. And it needs to be greater than the victory point. So they got to add up to 9 or higher. I hate a 1. 6 and 4 is 10. So you can see it may not take long for this to go south on me going into those extra turns if I keep wrapping up. Now, I believe if I get to 18 victory points, I automatically win. So I made a big jump on this first turn. I really liked what I did there. Making this attack here, it got me Rangoon, and coming across here and doing a quick Borneo attack. I really haven't launched all my naval stuff yet, and of course Pearl Harbor gained me some points if I hold on to those, if those ships are actually destroyed. Okay. So now we go into the Allied player turn, and I'm just doing a quick check because I used up all my goodies there for the Japanese. All right, so we go into Allied operations, and once Allied ground units deploy on the map, they remain in their space until eliminated or an action calls for them to move. Okay. So I'm supposed to do naval return. All right. Hang on just a minute while I check this. Okay, so I've been looking up what to do, and on our player aid, we've done all of our steps here. We did our combat. We did our victory fever check. Now we do naval return. So naval units on the map are placed in the fleet reserve. So any naval units on the map go into the fleet reserve if they're not in the same space with another unit. Okay, so we have our fleet reserve down here, and now we have naval units. So I got to see naval units, all these naval units right here These are ships, submarines that can get posted out for duty. I have an airplane and I have some infantry left there at Pearl. This is where it gets a little tedious because you have to go through and look now looking for naval units. So North Australia, see they have there's a ship, aircraft. So this is where it really, you kind of lose that whole fog of war thing, but that one moves in. So I'm looking anywhere that I have multiple units. I'm looking for a naval unit. Not any there, but I think here in the Philippines, yep, there's a submarine force and a destroyer. These are Marines, infantry, okay. So all of these guys stay there, but these two also come to the Fleet Reserve. And then down here, this one comes out of Java. This is your Australia. Now the one that does not move is over here in Ceylon. This is the Indian fleet over in here. They do not move. And Burma would only be infantry. Singapore, I don't think they, oh, yep, there's a battleship there in Singapore. So he comes out too. So all of these now become part of the Fleet Reserve that are going to be used as we move forward. Okay, there are reinforcements that we have to check for. So what we do is we check the table up here. We'll zoom this bad boy in again for you. You can get a look at it. So right here we have the Allied reinforcement die rolls, and there's one die roll. Okay, so we're going to roll one time and we get to pick that many units that are going to deploy. Okay, so let me back this up. And then up here we need the 1941 group. That is this stack right here. Oops. Those red ones, I do believe that's the Chinese. But we have there's 4 units that are in the reinforcement pool. So we're going to drop them in the cup here. We roll the dice and randomly pick that many. Okay. So reinforcements in their pool. On January 42, add 1942A reinforcements to the pool. On the May 42 turn, add the 42B reinforcements. We don't have those. Okay. And so during the Allied reinforcement phase, you must roll the number of dice equal to the number given on the turn track, which will be 1. Total the results and randomly pick that number of reinforcement units from the Allied bin. Place all Allied naval units in the Fleet Reserve display. For each air and ground unit, consult the corresponding line on the Allied air naval units. Place in the air units deploy. If there's an air base, ground units placed there. Okay. Okay, let's roll. And they get 2. So they get 2 reinforcement units. So we're going to pick. And they get. It is the Netherlands infantry and a B-17 group. Okay. The other 2 guys stay available for reinforcements. Oh, and there was a ship in there. Okay. All right. So now what we do is we have to roll again for each one of these. and they are going to deploy based on this table. So this is Allied Air and Land Reinforcement Deployment. If it was naval, we would have picked it on this table, but we didn't get that. We got the Allied Air and Land. So we're going to roll, depending on the type of unit. All right, so this first one is the Netherlands. So we're going to roll, and we get a 1. And a 1 puts this unit in. Fold this over so I can hold it. We roll a 1 for the Netherlands units, puts them in Java. So we add these guys down here, so they reinforce Java. So we add them here. So there's a little more infantry there now in Java. Okay, now we do it again. This is for the US. And he's going to go 4. And a 4 for the United States is Aleutians. So they're going to put their air group, these B-17s, they're going to the Aleutian Islands up here. Okay, we add them up here to the Aleutians. Okay, so they got 2 reinforcements. That's where they're at. All right. Next thing we do is we have to pick an event for the Allies. Now there's 2 events that we set aside out of this group. It was, again, if I can get these things to sit in my hand the right way. The Pacific Theater Reorganization, and the other one is, Allied Surprise Naval Attack. So those come up at a later point, so they don't go into the mix yet. Okay, so I've mixed up, got all these in here, and we pull one, and this is there. And before I go any further, I want to do this up here. I should have done this. I use this AI. It now goes into the Japanese special event marker, which we don't use anymore. And there's discarded events that'll go there, but I still have that Operation J is out there if I want it. Okay. All right. So for the U.S., for the Allies, we pick an event, and it is an Allied, come on, Allied Ground Offensive. Okay, so that's his event. All right, so I got to look that up, see what that means. So we have the Allied Ground Offensive. All right, so Allied Ground Offensive. For each space that contains Allied mobile ground units, move them 1 space on the same axis towards the nearest space containing Japanese ground and or based air units. Ground units cannot end the move in a C space. If the 1 space moves into space, do not move them, of course. And the disposition on this is it gets returned back in. All right, so they're going to do a counterattack is what this is. For each space that contains Allied mobile ground units, move them 1 space on the same axis towards the nearest space containing Japanese ground and or based air units. So he has a group that's going to move in here into Siam. These guys on the Burma Road, they're going to attack, and they have air support right here. And these guys would move to the Burma Road. That's where they'll stay. They only move 1 space, but they'll be there at the Burma Road. So they moved up. Singapore, they can't go out here. That's a Ocean. They can move up. The infantry can move up to Malaya. So he would stay there, and they move into Malaya now from Singapore. All right. Sorry, should have been showing you. I do that every once in a while. I get doing it and I forget to show you. Okay, so this air unit I don't think would have moved out of Burma. I think they would stay there. We'll see what happens. I think they will probably use them as an attack. Or no, they have to pull, I take that back. They would only move the infantry, and there's actually a Allied air-to-ground offensive if they get that. Okay. Counterattacks. Because that's what's next. All right, so the only thing that moved were the ground units. So they moved there, they moved up here, that group moved there, and Singapore came up to Malaya, Sumatra, these guys, none of these guys can move. I don't have any other ones that can move on the ground. So this is the Chinese theater. Now I'm really glad I went and made that attack, because otherwise those guys would have moved into Siam on me. So that's good. I got some forces going on. So now we can do the battle. So now we're going to flip the battle marker that's been on the Chinese side, or Japanese side, I'm sorry, to the Allied side. So we'll do this battle here in Rangoon first. We'll put those guys there, and we'll put my guys over here. And now we're going to check to see on counterattacks. During the Allied counterattack phase, you must conduct attacks with Allied units, not bases, located in the same spaces. Conduct attacks starting with the lowest numbered operational axis and the space on that axis closest to the Japanese home islands. Oh, well, that would have been, let's do it the right way. So these guys would be here still, and this would be in Malaya, in Siam. So this infantry unit's attacking, and I've got airborne, I got my Siam, I got another infantry unit, and I got my engineers all there. This is why you want to build these bases on these ground troops to help you support this, and why you don't automatically get them, like that one optional rule. See, I would have had a base there, and it would have swung a big deal of advance for me, but I think I'll be all right there anyway. Okay. Execute each attack with the Allies firing first as the attacker. All Japanese naval, air, and ground units in the space are engaged. Okay, so I don't have any air units there right now. Allied air units return to the base from which they launched, so we don't have any air units. If we don't get eliminated, then they stay there, and then I can launch another attack the next time. Okay, so these guys are attacking. They have a ground attack of 3. Okay, so they need a 1 to 3 to hit my units. They're doing the attack. So a 1 to 3, 5, no effect. Aha! I have 4 units. I got 2 that are 4s. So I'm going to roll them first. 1 to 4, I get hits. There's a 1 and a 2. All right. Man, the Japanese are being deadly here in 1941. So I hit 2 hits on this unit. That's him. And we flip him over, and he's eliminated. So he goes into the refit up here. All right. So we got rid of him. That ABG unit is a special unit, the one that I shot down. And it says right here, Flying Tigers. If eliminated, the Allied ABG unit cannot be refitted. So he goes into the permanently destroyed box up here. He's in permanently destroyed. So he does not get to go to the refit phase. All right, so I repelled that attack in Siam. My Siamese guys, they had a hit, so they did the right thing there. All right, takes care of that battle. Now we have another one here in Burma. So we have some infantry coming into Rangoon, and I got 2 armor units and an infantry unit. Okay, again, he rolls first. He needs a 1 or 2 to hit. Okay, 1 or 2. 5, no effect. All right, I have an infantry unit that's a 5. I need a 1 to 5 to hit. 3. So the 3 hits over here. The 3 hits, and he's a 1-step unit, so he got eliminated. So we put him over here into the refit box. Okay, and I held them guys off right there in Rangoon. All right, that takes care of the combat phase. So now we go into refit. And then we'll have a base upgrade for the allies. All right, so we have units for refit up here. And we have a refit table, allied refit table. So it tells us what's going to happen with them as we do them. So we got to do each unit. So let's start with the 2 ships units, because they're the 2 ones right there. And the other thing I just want to check is, because I eliminated aircraft and infantry, I just want to make sure that I don't get any Japanese gain control. Let's see, FEF naval, each allied cruiser. Yeah, so you don't get anything for just the infantry or the aircraft that you eliminate. Okay, so here we have the carriers. This is the Enterprise group, and they are they're a elite unit. So this is big if I eliminate them. Okay, on this table, I'll zoom in, give you a little look at this table here. This table, it says carrier. Die roll to eliminate permanently, 1, 2, 3. Die roll to place in the reinforcement pool of 4, or 5 or 6, they go into the reserve fleet display. Okay, so here we go. We're going to roll, and we're going to see what we get. This is for the carriers. Oh, it's a 1. They are permanently eliminated. So that's a set of carriers that they do not get back, and I do not lose my experience, my victory points. Next one's the battleships. Okay, carrier, submarines, other naval. 1, 2 eliminated, 3, 4 reinforcements, 5, 6 reserve fleet. Here we go. Oh, it's a 1. They're permanently eliminated. So the Arizona and let's see, the other couple battleships, just like history, they are not coming back to bother me, and I do not lose my victory points. Okay, next thing we got are a couple of aircraft. So for our air, 1, 2 destroyed permanently, 3, 4 reinforcement pool, 5, 6 die roll to deploy on the map. Okay, so we'll start with this first unit right here on top. It's a seaplane unit right here. So we'll start with it. Let's see what we get. Well, nothing there. A 3, and a 3 puts it into the reinforcement pool. So they go up here to the reinforcement pool in 1941, which I'm going to set up out of the square a little bit just so I can keep track of them. The other one is this fighter group. Looks like P-40s. There they are. Okay, same roll, and they get a 3. They also go into the reinforcement pool. So up here is my reinforcement pool. So I'm going to have them there. And now we do these infantry. And for infantry, mobile ground. And those bases they just go into the, this is when we try to, you know, when I eliminated them, they were gone. So nothing, you don't get, they don't go like reinforcements. They just have to build those. Okay, the infantry, a 1, 2, or 3 permanently eliminated, a 4 replacement, a 5, 6 they get redeployed. Okay, so here we go. This first one down here, it's a 4, and a 4 was into the replacement pool. So we put them up there, and now we got one more, and it's a 6, and a 6 means he gets redeployed. Okay, this is this unit right here. So he gets redeployed. Okay, so I have a redeployment table, and this would be a British Empire unit right here. So we roll, and we get a 2. And a 2 on the British Empire, come on, where's my table at? Here it is. British Empire, a 2, he goes to India. Okay, so he gets redeployed over here into India. And there was an optional rule, Allied reinforcements marching in. Allies deploy reinforcements in the following spaces regardless of the state of control. India, Burma Road, North Australia. So India is where he was coming in anyway. So that's where he's at. So he's now in India. Okay. All right. One last thing we have to do is upgrade bases outside the red line. So the Allies, any bases that are outside, any of their bases outside can be upgraded if they roll a 6. Okay, so nothing can be higher than a 4. So they can't upgrade Hawaii, it's already a 4. So we'll start with the Aleutians, they're a 2. So they need a 6. We got a 2. Now we go to Midway. Oops, they get a 4. Okay. Next one, Samoa. Let's make it go in the tower. 2. Okay, New Hebrides. 4. Port Moresby. 2. North Australia. 2. Darwin. 6. Okay, so Darwin down here, way down here in Australia, they go from a 1 to a 2, so they just got a little harder to get rid of. Now, all these are still inside. Right here, all of these guys are still inside, so Ceylon and India are the last 2. So let's roll for, we'll start with Ceylon first. Looking for a 6, 4, and now India. They got a 1. Okay, so 1 base upgraded. Darwin. Okay, of all the ones, that's the one that I don't mind upgrading. All right, we're going to move the turn marker to turn number 2, which is going to be January of 42. I'm going to get 3 basic actions. They get 1 die roll for reinforcements, and they get 1 event. Okay, so I'm still a little bit, but I don't get all the extra stuff that I had on that first turn. So, depending on these operations, but I do have ground operation here that I can use, so I might be able to come down and either hit the Burma Road, or come down here and hit Malaya while I got my air group there. And then, or I need to move my air group up here to Siam so I can start, you know, helping myself here on the Burma Road. Okay, this has been interesting. I like this. The thing about this game versus Midway Solitaire is, Midway Solitaire was much more, to me, much more structured. In other words, you pulled a chit, it's going to be one of these, you know, 4 operations that's going to happen. You pull another chit, it's going to be one of these. So it was just a matter of time. Here, I'm actually getting to make decisions. I made decisions about where I put my forces, and I'm getting to make decisions about what do I want to do here as far as movement, you know, controlling things, seeing what's around. So I'm controlling what I want to do here right now. So I think this is pretty cool, and I'm liking this so far. Oh, we'll see what happens. It's going to get tougher as we go, but that'll do it for the December 41. I think we spent a lot of time working through the first video. I can see this game probably shouldn't take as long as it's taken me to video, but that's okay. It's going to get interesting with the replacements in 1942. There's going to be a lot more of them. Things can start happening up here in China and stuff. So this is a lot of ground action going on up here, and then I got to start my island stuff. You know, and I got this big mess down here too in the Philippines. I'd like to see if I can get rid of them and help myself too. But I got to be careful, because if you take Luzon, they can ground attack you right back in there. So that's a tough nut to crack also. I'd like to kind of get down in here, see what we can do. So, okay, that's enough. Hey, I hope you're enjoying this one. I am. I think I'm going to like this game. If you don't mind, if you're new, please subscribe. It sure does help me. And if you like the video, give me a thumbs up, and I'd appreciate it. And I'll see you guys on the next one. And everybody have a good one.